Phase 3, we're introducing again the concept of macro tactics. You've never heard it before. It's a new word. It came out of an interpretation I had done. I started to look at how I was looking at planning. And I realized that while we use the word tactics, tactics defines a whole nother set of parameters. It's the steps you would take to get someplace. And I realized that I do two things. The first thing I do is design the big picture of the tactic, and it's actually the macro tactic. What would that tactic look like? So for example, let's say we're going to enter into a new market and we say we need to have a partner, an ally. Right there, that's a macro tactic. You can't do anything where there's not enough meat. The selection of a partner would be, or how we go about selecting a partner, would be the tactical component. And we do this all the time. We do a big picture. What are the things that we would need to get someplace without the details that are engaged in them? And I'll go over that in our example that we do. We follow that vacation holiday example. The value in doing something like this is what it does is it stops you to say, what are we choosing? And it opens up the ability to not have to go into depth in everything too early to find all the details and give us more options. So you can say, no, I don't want to have the details. I want to know what are our options at our disposal. And it allows us not to be busy, but to be productive in our thinking. Now, I also would like you to look at the enterprise, the CST model, that box where you have the line that are open. You might be working on your macro tactics and realize your strategy might need to be reworded. It might need some clarity that you didn't have before. You might get all the way to the tactics and move your macro tactics might have to be modified. So at this point, what I want you to be thinking of, accepting and rejecting new options, because you've got this new tool in the middle, and it allows you to save some of that precious time having different discussions. So let's go back to that thread of traveling. Now, you say you're going on vacation, and you might pick Buenos Aires, Paris, and London as your place, or you're looking for location cities. You might decide in this one area that you're trying to determine what type of hotel you're going to stay at, 5-star, 3-star, or you're going to backpack it through the country. Just saying those words, I don't have the details, but you could see you can have multiple options. We're going to by boat, by ferry. We're going to use why don't we go on a boat, on a cruise ship? All of those options are all macro tactics, no details. So if you just start to, you stay in that macro tactic area, you'll again find more options. One of the things that I do though is I push people to start thinking a little bit differently at this phase. And how do I do that? What I say to them is I'd like you to start asking yourself new questions. And the questions, if they're asked appropriately, will shift your thinking to completely new paradigms. Let me give you an example. If I said to you right now that you need to accomplish a task in a year, you'd set up a set of macro tactics you would employ. Well, we need to find a partner, we need to be able to look into the market, we need to look at our sales, we need to get loans. What if I changed that exact same scenario and said, has to be done in a month? Pick something you're working on. You have a year to do it, you have a month to do it. And if it's big enough, everything changes. So these are some of the questions that I push people to be thinking about. For example, take whatever you're working on in the macro tactic phase and say, how do I do this in a half or third or a tenth of the time? The reason is if we pick something that's a micro improvement, meaning we always do it in a year and we say we got to do it in 11 months, you're going to do it faster. If I say you have to do it in 8 months, you're going to do it even faster. But if I say you're going to have to do it in 3 months or a month, you'd say, oh no, we're going to have to do this completely differently. It's going to have a different set of parameters. So change the question at some point. Say, okay, what if we had to do this in a month? How would we approach this? Here's another one. How can we achieve this with little or no human involvement? That's a big question. What about if to reach our objectives, we have to use only the resources we have? Right now I'm working on putting man to live, plans for developing, putting man on the moon to live sustainably on the moon and create a space-based economy. And if you ask the question, how would we do it? We could look at history and try to do that faster. But what if you said no new technology? We can't use any new technology. Well, you can use used rockets, used tools, and actually we went to the moon in the 1960s. Why can't we get there today without actually using anything new? It changes your mindset. How can we double the returns in half the time? How can we eliminate our competitors completely from the equation? How do we triple our benefits, profits, return on investment? Each of these questions will help to give you a new exploration of new potential macro tactics. And that shift from, say, a year to 3 months, or a year to a month, or half the time, will get you to be more innovative in your approaches. So let's talk about a bank in Texas. I was talking to the management team, and what they had decided to do, without me knowing them at the point, is they decided to build a brick and mortar bank in an area around about 15,000 homes being developed. And the reason is they knew that they needed a branch there. But when we started talking about the target market, people who were 20 to 35, that might not have been the best approach, because 20 to 35-year-olds are more interested in having online banking and services and using the bank for a completely different example or a different service. In the fintech, financial technology sector, there are over 6,000 companies today trying to figure out how to be able to give new products and services to people so that we can eliminate this banking sector. For example, in the future, you'll walk into an auto dealership. You won't have to ask for a loan. Your GPS on your cell will tell the financial institutions you're standing there. It will accumulate your ability to get a loan, not charging you anything, and tell you how much you could afford, right on your phone before you did anything, or whatever device is transmitting the data. It also will give you a different approach to looking at whole different markets. I just had to do some research for the radio industry. And as part of my research for the radio industry, I was having discussion with the executives, and at one point they said to me, radio is determined that we really want to take the local market. They want to be responsible for weather and news and sports and all the things that are local. And at the same time, they were saying to me, we're having trouble catching the millennials. And then it hit me. Their macro tactics were wrong. Their strategy was wrong. If you look at what happened, really companies like Spotify, Jenga, God, there's so many companies out there today. They took the space of music, and this other sector had to actually take on this one area of local, because that's all they had left. And then I asked the audience a simple question. I said, what is local to a millennial? And you could see them all looking at each other. Local to a millennial is more global or international, because most kids today have friends from all over the place. So the fact is, they were using the wrong strategy and the wrong macro tactics to answer the question and solve it. So what I'd like you to do during this is spend some time on macro tactics. Don't get into the busyness of the details. Pull yourself back and say, what different ways can we explore creating opportunities? And slow down enough to be able to create new opportunities by asking yourself new questions. And I gave you a few. Those will be enough to carry you for a long time. So let's move on to the next phase of this cyclonic strategic thinking model.